All right, how y'all doing this morning? Yeah, that's the excitement right there. Luke's feeling it. Rick's feeling it. We're getting it going. It might be raining. There might only be half of us here, but we're going to do this. This is going to be exciting. So, welcome to 1 Million Cups. My name's Zach. This is our exciting organizer team. Kyle checking on his phone. Luke is looking at Kyle, and Courtney's just kind of standing there. So thank you for being here. Today we have the 1 Million Cups app actually launching, so I kind of made a little public service announcement about that before. But if you want to download the app, check in, that would be absolutely wonderful. So for those of you that it's your first time here, can we see a show of hands? Awesome. This is a solid little group. Well, welcome. To clarify, what you're at is 1 Million Cups, and what you're about to see is two entrepreneurs get up on stage, present their company, present their story, and you're going to have a chance after our expert panel to ask them some questions, poke some holes, and just find out more. So with that, I want to introduce our expert panel, starting off with the wonderful Drew. Who you are and what you do.
Okay, all right. Drew Solomon, for the purposes of the day, Senior Vice President at the EDC of Kansas City, also responsible for the Launch KC grant competition.
Good morning. I'm Amanda Signorelli. I'm the CEO of Tech Week, and as we were just talking about, I'm probably the one that's been annoyingly emailing all of you to come to our event this week. Hope to see everyone that's in this room either Thursday or Friday, especially Friday for the Launch KC Grants competition. And for me, super excited to have a chance to be here in person. It's a great chance. Last year, I got to also look at launch as we were coming through across all of our markets, doing the DD both on the VC side and for Tech Week as the mothership.
Awesome to have both of you here. Quick round of applause. It's great to have a panel of this stature here. After that, just a quick note. So 1 in a Million's coming up. Tech Weeks is this week. So it's kind of like the 1 Million Cups, like holiday season. If you're an entrepreneur in Kansas City, this is like you're caroling and whatnot in the streets. So do take a look at Tech Week, see what's going on there, and try and get involved for the rest of the week if you can. With that, we're going to open it up to Neutralize, Joe Dunn, and Todd Whitaker to tell you about their story.
Thanks, Zach.
I'm going to test this one too.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, we're really excited to be here today. My name is Joe Dunn. This is Todd Whitaker, and we are developing a mobile application called Neutralize. And so what Neutralize is, it's an application that scores nutrition of restaurant meals. And we do that by measuring individual biometrics, physical activity, and nutrition data. So something that's neat about what we're doing is that it is very much based on personalized scoring. So here you've got Jeremy Macklin and this model, and they're going to have a different score for the same meal, and that's due to the fact that they both have these unique dietary needs and unique biometrics. And it's something that we're going to get into more detail later on when Todd talks about this. But I first want to start with this question that I get it all the time, and I'm sure many of you get it. It's where should we eat? And when I get this question, I immediately think of all the options in Kansas City, and there's over 3,000 of them. So it's not a question that I can really answer on the spot. It usually takes opening up Yelp or TripAdvisor, but anymore, it's not just where should we eat, but where should we eat to find something healthy. The reality is that the U.S. spends over $120 billion a year on diet-related illness, such as diabetes and heart disease. And a big part of this illness is the lack of nutritional information that we're seeing, mainly in restaurants. So you look at this menu this is from Applebee's, and this is one of the better visual menus out there. There's only one meal on here that has any information about the nutrients in it. And so everything else just has the titles and descriptions, but we don't have enough information to make these informed health decisions, and even if we did have this information, it's not enough for us to make an analysis on the spot. We need more information, and we need someone to tell us, the value of this. So the question that's kind of the basis of Neutralize is why can't we simplify dining out? It's a question that's from not just the scoring, but from how do we get that meal? Like, what allergens are in it? What is the nutritional breakdown of it? When can we get it? Like, there's all these questions that essentially, cannot be answered currently, and that we're trying to answer. And the most important question is, what you should be eating, and that's the one we're tackling. So with that, I want to hand this off to Todd to talk about the biometrics and what goes into the scoring model.
Thanks. Yeah, so Joe and I really wanted to hone in on this idea that different people have different nutritional needs. You can think of someone that has a 3,000 calorie diet versus someone that has a 1,500 calorie diet, and you know, they're both going to look at the same meal in a different way. And so to find meals that are nutritionally suited for people, the meals that are best suited for people, we first start by developing a biometric profile to figure out who you are. We figure out what your lifestyle is and what your goals are for your health. And with that information, we use dietary guidelines from the American Heart Association and the Institute of Medicine and other scientific bodies to determine the ideal level of healthy nutrients for you, and also the upper limits on unhealthy nutrients for you. And then with that, we can reference our meal database that has nutritional statistics, and we use an algorithm to then say, hey, this meal over here has the ideal amount of nutrients without a bunch of junk in it for this person, and this one's better for this person over here. You can go to the next one. So neutralized scores range between 0 and 100, with 100 being meals that are more dense in nutrients without the junk, and meals being closer to 0, obviously are nutritionally void. They're, you know, they don't have anything in them that's good for you. And so, like at the top here, oh, and by the way, we try to kind of structure this so like meals between 90 and 100 are like exceptionally nutritious meals, right? And then meals between like 0 and 50 would probably be meals that your dietitian would try to tell you to stay away from. So at the top here, this is a standard meal output. At the top, you've got your neutralized score, which is kind of the comprehensive overall look at the meal. But if you can also drill into things like macronutrients, which are carbohydrates, fats, proteins, things like that, if you're trying to meet your macros. There's also a micronutrient score, which determines whether or not the meal is dense in vitamins and minerals. And then there's a detriment score, which determines if you're eating something that has a lot of things that are unhealthy, like excessive calories, sodium, etc. So we're excited about the scoring model, and it really helps filter meals for you. But there's also other features that you can use to find the meal that's right for you that Joe's going to talk about.
Yeah, so with all these numbers that we're capturing, we're able to create this dynamic experience that adapts to the individual. And so, for instance, on this meal here, it may score 74 for me. For some of you, it may score 77. Others, a 71, based on your biometrics. You notice it's got this Instagram look and feel to it, and that's by design. The feed can be essentially filtered by the location you're in. It can be filtered by what you're looking for. So it's lunch, dinner, breakfast, the category of meal, the price, you know, the allergens. You can filter out the meals that you may be allergic to, and then it gives you a full nutritional breakdown from the macronutrients to the micronutrients, and then also the ingredients. And you have the ability to basically choose what you want to see with filters. And it talks about some of those, but cuisine style, the price, whether or not it's open at the time, and allergens. Another neat feature we have is this curated aspect, and this is essentially, it's called Top Picks, and these are meals that are selected by our network of dietitians around town that basically choose meals that they recommend for you to eat based on either cuisine or lifestyle. So that would be like a paleo diet or a Mediterranean diet. And so with these meals, they write a brief anecdote that talks about why they recommend it and the ingredients that are special to it. But probably the most important thing with what we're doing is that we're focusing on local restaurants. And this is important because due to the FDA's rules, local restaurants are not obligated to submit their nutrition data. And we think with the transparency out there, there's a lot of benefits for them to be on our platform through the exposure, through the analytics we can provide them. And it's really kind of a call to action to all of you is to, you know, we need to find a way to connect better with the local restaurants and find a way to engage them because, you know, technology's taken over at every industry, especially the restaurant industry. So we want to be at the forefront of that. And we encourage you to sign up for early access on Neutralize.com if you have a passion for health and passion for eating healthy. And yeah, we're going to be launching in early 2017. So with that, thank you guys.
All right. We're going to go ahead and open it up to our expert panel.
Great presentation, guys. That was wonderful. Could you talk to me a little more about the score? I'm for what it's worth, I'm gonna call it a mid score, but can you talk about some of the information and the data that goes behind your actual micro and macro scores and that?
Yeah, sure. So there's probably 30 or so different nutrient values that are important to the scoring. For macronutrients, those are the things that you really get calories from, right? So carbohydrates, fats, proteins, and fiber is the way we group them. And so like that macronutrient score there you saw is a way of saying, are you getting enough of those, right? Like in a meal, do you get a well-balanced set of those few things? Similar idea with micronutrients. There's, I think, 23 different micronutrients that we analyzed in the comprehensive model. Those would be things like vitamin D, magnesium, calcium, things like that, right? So meals with more of those that are more dense in those vitamins and minerals are going to have a higher micronutrient score. And stop me if any of this doesn't make sense or if I'm just repeating myself.
So quick question, how does that play into potentially a score needing to change? So does this tie to almost having two phases, right? There's one level, which is I as an individual may be looking to maintain where I'm at from a health perspective versus looking to use meals as a way to augment, whether that's up or down in terms of my own health. Will that score reflect the changes that I have between those two phases?
Yeah, absolutely. So that plays into this whole dynamic aspect. So like if you were trying to lose weight, a lower calorie meal would score better for you, all other things held equivalent. And in the same respect, if you were a bodybuilder and you're trying to gain weight, if you had a meal that was too low in calories, you wouldn't be meeting your macros, and so therefore you wouldn't get a high macronutrient score.
To follow up on that, the actual neutralized score, is that, I take it, some simple...
It's a blend of the three. Yeah.
Okay. Any weighting, or is that...
Yeah, it's weighting, and then it's... So obviously detriments and sufficiencies for macronutrients and micronutrients work differently, but yeah, so like I could give you the formula, I won't right now.
Yeah.
But it's of those three numbers to get to the overall neutralized score. So it's trying to kind of like take, like whatever, 30 different numbers and boil them down to a few, and then boil those three down to one so that we can sort and filter on that.
Can you walk us through the revenue model?
That would be him.
Revenue model? Yeah. So
it's a good thing.
Yeah, no, okay, so I mean, we're still in development right now, but the ways we see revenue are primarily through analytics, the user analytics. So the restaurants that would be on our platform would have access to the activity on the app. So what people are looking at, how long they spend on the app, and basically all that data that's being collected through the user activity. The second one would be advertising, and that's another option for the restaurants. So if they have a meal that maybe scores lower than others, and they want to be higher up on the feed, they can pay for a sponsored listing. And the third one we have is going to be a premium feature. We're going to have a number of premium features, but the main one is going to be scoring meals at home, and that's for the user. And that's something it's going to be more of a phase 2 build out. But for those who like to cook at home, they're going to have that ability to score their meals at home, but pay a subscription fee.
Do you want to talk about nutrient analysis and stuff like that?
Yeah, so that's another premium feature is a nutrient analysis would basically analyze all the meals that you are liking and saying that you are eating on the app, and it would tell you what you are getting a good amount of nutrition in and what you are lacking. And so
if you consistently eat a certain way in which you would be like vitamin B deficient, it would pick that up.
Gotcha. So you've got kind of three channels that are going. You've got restaurants, which is going to be kind of targeting directly to them, advertising. You've also got the consumer side. The restaurants primarily are local, correct? That you're looking at for phase 1?
Well, we're also including chain restaurants.
Chain?
Yeah. So the chain restaurant available is publicly available. If you're a chain restaurant with more than 20 locations, a chain brand with more than 20 locations, you're required by law to publish statistics on your nutrition. And for restaurants with fewer locations, you don't have to. And so that's kind of like, the holy grail of nutrition data is getting those local restaurants integrated into something so that people know what's in the food.
What's been the appetite thus far from those restaurants capturing that type of information? Because I can see a lot of benefit for the consumers, but for the restaurants themselves, especially local ones, what's kind of been their reaction thus far?
Yeah, so I mean, we've talked to some local restaurants, and there's definitely excitement about being able to get access to that data and know what people want to eat and what they like. But yeah, since we're still in development, I mean, it's we're being careful not to basically not to promise too much because we're still developing this, and but like to answer your question, like they're definitely excited about the analytical side of this. So.
It sounds like there's a real problem with the last mile of nutrition information for these smaller restaurants. What makes both of you uniquely qualified to take this on?
Yeah, I mean, I think it really comes down to, we have a passion for nutrition, and Todd's got a real skill with numbers. His background is an actuary, and I think it comes down to we have a vision and a passion to help people be healthier. Because I mean, it's obviously a problem. I mean, the amount of money we spend on health-related illnesses, it's all preventable by just educating people to let them know that they can eat healthier. It's just a matter of they go out to eat and they make mistakes because they're not sure how healthy or unhealthy that meal is they're eating because there's a lack of information. So we're trying to basically free that information and make things more transparent.
Yeah, and to kind of piggyback off what Joe's saying, like that is like our biggest challenge right now. Like we can get people to build this app, we can gather, chain restaurant data, but the thing that we probably spend our most time banging our heads against the wall about is, okay, how do we incentivize restaurants to give us the recipes? And there's some analytical and financial incentive, but you're right. The major incentive is for the consumers, right? This is useful to them mostly, and so. We've tried to kind of focus this on we're an app that promotes restaurants. They're really our customer, right? And you see restaurants getting on Instagram and Facebook and spending time on social media posting, high quality professional photos of their stuff, and that's not even really tailored for them. So if we're thinking, if they're willing to spend this much time getting themselves out on social media, would it really be that big of a deal for them to give us a photocopy of the restaurants? So.
All right, we're going to go ahead and open it up to the crowd. So if you have a question, go ahead and raise your hand, and we'll come around with a microphone.
Yeah, Luke and I will come around. We're going to start up front here, but I have to interject with a question first after listening to that answer.
Yeah, totally.
How many restaurant owners have you guys talked to? I'm hearing a lot of we think, a lot of we're hypothesizing, but have you talked to restaurant owners?
Yeah, we've talked to several. Yeah, so I mean, but because we're still in development, I mean, the data that we can access right now is the chain restaurant data, and so we're using that to fill the platform. But yeah, I mean, we've talked to several restaurant owners. It's just a matter of we're not quite to the finish line, so we don't want to engage too many before we have this ready to go, because I don't want this to be a situation where it's okay, come back to me when this is finished. We're working on perfecting this application so we can then go out and reach out to more.
Question right back here in the middle.
How do you gather the data from the local restaurants? Where do they get that data from?
How do we get it from them?
The nutritional
I mean,
information.
The plan for now is really just to really go around and just engage them and talk to them, email them, call them. But over time, the plan is to build out essentially a portal where they can submit nutrition information for us to post on the platform.
So do you mean the actual nutrition statistics? Yeah, okay.
Local restaurants, I mean, they're swamped with 1,000 things to do. Do they have the time to submit that information to?
Right. So one of the things that even chain restaurants can do is use the USDA's database of food, which has about 10,000 different food ingredients with nutritional statistics, to build the meals. So they don't actually have to take every meal that they make and then take it to a burner and do a nutrient analysis with a big scientific process. They can use the data that's already out there for carrots, turkey, broccoli, and whatever else to then get the nutrient totals. So what we would do is we would request a recipe from them, and then we would do it for them. We would do the USDA connection on our own.
So this app for consumers, except for the premium services, maybe is going to be free, right?
Yeah.
And do the restaurants have to participate? Do they pay a fee to, or a subscription fee or something like that?
They don't have to participate. Yeah, I mean, the plan going forward is to have a platform fee. It'll be very nominal, but yeah, in the early goings, we're going to have a closed beta and a public beta where we're going to waive the fee, and it's just a matter of getting them acquainted to using it.
One of the things, like I said, we've talked a lot about how do we get restaurants on board, how do we get local restaurants on board, and there's this idea that transparency in nutrition is going to probably trickle down to local restaurants at some point in time, and that's not a for sure, but we're kind of banking on that. And what we hope is that when that time comes, if that time comes, we'll have a platform already built out where these restaurants can get on and upload their meal data, basically comply with the law, and give us the data to fill out our database at the same time. So we would probably, we've talked about this, we'd probably say, hey, restaurant users, if you come on board early, then we can give you some sort of special deal when that time comes, and you have to, by law, build out your meals and give nutrition statistics. And you can always sign up later and use our intuitive platform to build your meals, but if you don't sign up now, then maybe you wouldn't get the special deal or something.
Yeah, like one of those incentives, we talked about using beacons so we can actually track when someone is using the app and when they actually arrive in the restaurant, we can show the restaurant that entire trail of when they opened it to what they looked at to when they arrived in the restaurant. So that gives them that full connection of data.
And the analytics will be sold, however, right? That's not.
Yeah.
So how does this work? When I go to a local restaurant, one of the things that can happen is that there are new items on the menu all the time. Who's going to be responsible for making sure that the app actually supports what's current? Same thing with discontinued items, because that can cause, if you're using the app as you opened this presentation with where shall we eat, can lead to problems. Have you thought about how you're going to handle that?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely, kind of a maintenance issue that we're going to just stay on top of. And when we talk to the restaurants, the initial conversation will be gathering those core meals that are always on the menu. And I mean, I know there's some places that always have seasonal items, but we plan to stay on top of that and really and keep in touch with the restaurant whenever they change their menu and, provide the most up-to-date experience possible.
Question back here to the right.
Hi, you mentioned that you are keyed in on allergens. And as someone who has celiac disease, I'm wondering how deep you get in with these restaurants. A lot of restaurants want to report that they're gluten-free, but they're not due to cross-contamination. And I would love an app that helped me navigate. Everyone always makes me choose the restaurant because I'm the one that has all the needs. And I would really love help getting a rating of some sort on how gluten-free a restaurant really is.
Yeah, so the way we approach allergens, we have a yes, no, and a not provided. And I know there's a lot of cross-contamination that goes on. So one meal might not have gluten, but they cook it in a pan that does, or, there's that type of situation. So we're going to be very careful on that end about saying what does and does not have it. And if they have cross-contamination, I think we would make them mark not provided. So that way we can't tell you for sure that this doesn't have wheat in it. So yeah, I have a tree nut allergy, so this is a big thing for me. And it's something that when we have discussions with the restaurant, we're gonna ask all those questions about, when you cook these meals, are you cooking other meals that may have any of these allergens? And if they do, we're gonna be on the safe side and just have a not provided for that specific allergen.
Question in the middle here, guys.
So from a user standpoint, the individual, would you have put a profile, develop a profile, and then would you use this just to select like a restaurant for a meal, or would it be something that you'd use interactively for almost like a program?
Yeah, it's totally interactive. So when you sign up, we ask you for that biometric profile that I showed you. It was the picture of me with shorter hair. So yeah, if you go back. So this is the majority of the information that we use. Well, this is all of the information that we'll use for the MVP for the first phase of development. So yeah, so it won't be like, oh, okay, I'm gonna go look at a restaurant. You can do that. You can go search by restaurant and find the restaurant and then find the meals that we have for the restaurant. But I think what the cool thing about this is, and the way I envision using it, is the home feed. In the home feed, will you go to the home feed? Thanks. So this is the home feed, and the home feed is a dynamic list. So it's presented to you based on how well the meals score, how close they are to you, and the popularity of the dish. So if a lot of people like the dish, it's going to be higher in the feed than one that is the same but not like so much. So like I imagine being at work, and I'm like, oh, I've got like 30 minutes, so I need a meal that's in 2 miles, and I'm allergic to peanuts and soy, and I want a meal that scores 90 because I ate ice cream last night. So bam, and then on this feed, it would just be those meals that you see from all different restaurants.
All right, right here.
Well, I'm very old-fashioned, and I squeeze fresh orange juice every day. And I think that anything nature-made, grown off the tree, is far superior than all this processed, canned, frozen, additive-laden food. So would you please include nature and consider authenticity? What in a can, everything has been killed and dead. We really want to be live and natural. Yeah.
So I agree, and I think Joe probably does too. We both eat clean, or I try to eat organic. So the problem with the scoring, though, is there's not really like guidelines for that. So I can't go to the American Heart Association and be like, tell me how much of this processing material is okay. Like we have that for like magnesium, we have that for like protein and things like that. But the good thing about Neutralize is we're in control of all the content that gets put on there. So I think Joe and I, as kind of people that try to eat clean, and as the people that are managing this thing, probably won't go after restaurants that are using a lot of like additive-laden food. We want to first make sure that the meals that go into the database use quality ingredients, and that they look good, right, and stuff like that. But then those are the meals that we can do the nutrient analysis on. So you're kind of getting like both. You're getting good ingredients, natural foods, whole ingredients, and then a nutrient analysis. Does that answer your question?
No, but it's perfect.
Question on the other side back here, guys. Good attempt. Good attempt.
Nice presentation, guys.
Thanks.
Quick question for you. Actually, it's two-part. As a family man, I've got kids, and I'm often, when we're at restaurants, looking to make sure I can track both not only myself, but what my kids are eating. Does your application have the ability to, on my profile, add children so I can track and see what they're ordering rather than have to relog into multiple? Additionally, we spend the majority of our meals at home, not at a restaurant. And we've already using apps to track our recipes and our grocery list, and that they populate back and forth between each other. Are you guys planning any kind of integration where I could integrate to those kind of applications and be able to dump down the meals that we're preparing at home and how they're going to score for myself and for my children?
Yeah, so that's one of our premium features is it's going to be neutralized. It's going to be neutralized at home, and it gives you the ability to score home-cooked meals. So you'll be able to give us the ingredients and the serving sizes, and it will score it based on your profile. In regards to adding your kids to the profile, that's not something we've thought about, but it's definitely something that we could. I mean, you could create a separate profile for children.
You could just go to edit and then change the biometric inputs for your children. But yeah, for the MVP, it won't be like, oh, I've
So our final question for you guys today is, what can we as a community do to help you?
Yeah, so I mean, I think that goes back to this this last slide I had about the local element, and so since we're still in development, we've reached out to some local restaurants, but it's really it's about engaging them, because really they're the ones who are going to benefit the most from this platform by the additional exposure, by putting that data out there to let people know that local restaurants as a whole are going to be healthier than chains. That's just the reality. And so making that information transparent is really important to us. So we'd love to have, if anyone has ideas or connections to the local restaurant scene, that's really where we could benefit the most, and really engage them on a broader scale.
And having like a public kind of like desire for more transparency about what's in local restaurant food helps us. Like, if you're at a restaurant and you like it and you go there a lot, but you don't know a lot about it, you can help us by like telling the manager, like, hey, there's this app called Neutralize. You guys should check it out and get on the platform. That would be good too.
Thanks so much to Joe and Todd this morning.
Thanks.
So happy Tech Week. We have a couple of quick live announcements. Kyle, would you like to go first?
Awesome. Hi, guys. When I'm not tweeting for 1 Million Cups KC, I'm the communications coordinator for KC SourceLink. In case you're not familiar, we're a nonprofit here in town that helps people start and grow businesses. We also track Kansas City's progress towards becoming America's most entrepreneurial city, alongside of a lot of great partners here in town. Towards that effort, the next thing we want to do is hear from you. So we have a focus group coming up on Thursday, September 29th, right here at the Kauffman Foundation. And if you care about Kansas City's startup scene, if you also want to see Kansas City become America's most entrepreneurial city, we want to hear from you. So go to that URL there, sign up. It's also on Twitter if you just want to click. Thank you so much, and back to Courtney.
Thank you. We would also like to welcome up Aditya from the Lean Lab. He has a couple of quick announcements for you.
Hey, I just had a quick announcement. So we are bringing our summer fellows back. There are 5 EdTech startups that spent a residency here in Kansas City over the summer, and they're going to be doing their final pitch event on September 29th at the Sprint Accelerator. So you can just go to theleanlab.org and get your tickets there. There's going to be a community prize, so we'll be giving away $25K to the top 2 teams, and then there'll also be a community prize based on the ticket sales. So it'd be great if all of you were there.
Thank you. And I'd like to give a shout out to our presenter last week, Jennifer Lapka with Rightfully Sewn is hosting an event this Saturday, which the details are on your announcement sheet. So if you're interested in fashion, please go check that out this weekend. And also more announcements are on here, so grab these in the back. And I would like to welcome our second presenter, Chris Dennis with GivePet.
Time to get started, so I'm in a hurry here. How's everybody doing today? Thanks for coming out in the rain. I'm from Kansas City. My name's Chris Dennis. I've been in the pet industry for 16 years. So, been selling premium pet foods for 16 years now. My sister, who lives in Dallas, has a rescue. She literally gets any animal off the side of the road. And anyway, she encouraged me to get into the industry many years ago in maybe pharmaceuticals or foods. And so literally I've been selling pet foods for 16 years. I have a lot of sales and management experience with large format chain stores, independent pet specialty retailers, kennels, veterinarians, hardware stores, farm and home. So for the last half of my career, I knew that I wanted to do something on my own. And I became very involved with a lot of organizations here in town, like Wayside Waves, KC Pet Project, and I saw a real need for giving back to these organizations. So I would take expired products. I actually applied for a grant from one of my companies and did a dog park renovation at Wayside Waves about 6 years ago. I've become very involved with KC Pet Project. But I saw the need, and I thought, what a hypocrisy. All these companies making money, no one's really giving back on a local or tangible way. So my journey started probably 3 years ago. It's a long process, especially for packaged goods. I came out with my business plan, and it got really real when I was introduced to Whiskey Design, their local branding company here in Kansas City. I thought if I make the investment to push this forward, that would get me going, and it did. So there's a real need for treats in these facilities, and I'm going to back up a second. I'm a dog treat company, premium treats that give back to local shelters. This is a post from Wayside Waifs on June 4th. They post about every 3 weeks saying they need treats. The purpose is when they train a dog at the facility, they're likely to have a much more successful adoption rate. My dog is a perfect example. So we're actually her third home. Fern, a tree walker coonhound. So yeah, perhaps if there had been this program 5-6 years ago, she wouldn't have had a third home. So don't get one of these unless you're training for a marathon, by the way. So it's really easy. I want to make it really easy for the consumer. You walk into a retail location, independent pet specialty retailer, you buy a bag of healthy treats. I provide enough treats for 10 shelter dogs in your local community. And when those dogs get adopted, we encourage their adoptees to go out and purchase the same treats that we're giving their dogs while they're in the care of these facilities. So my goal is to give millions of treats away. Here's my packaging. It comes in 4 formulas. I'm not going to talk a lot about Ranch Handa's bison, baked potato, and carrots. Doghouse Rock, bacon, peanut butter, and banana. Campfire Feast, salmon, sweet potato, and blueberry, and breakfast all day, so which is bacon, egg, and orange. By the way, these would score very high on Neutralize. So I'm kind of thinking about a partnership already. What I've done, 16 years of calling on pet specialty retailers, these crappy displays that fall over, they get peed on. I came out with a very custom steel display. They're all one piece except for these wood bins. This was actually my prototype. They've even gotten a little better since then. But it's a very expensive piece. It's almost like a piece of nice furniture that the retailer can use in their store. Each one of my formulas is available in a 19-pound box. This consumer comes in, scoops and mix and matches, and they fill this bag. 10 shelter dogs just got treats. All I had to do was fill this bag. So they mix and match, 1-pound bag. The retailers love it because you have to maintain a scale if you sell bulk treats. This way, it's 1 pound out the door, it scans, no worry with a scale. So it was a real success. How I work at retail. So the retailer promotes Give Pet in their stores. I'm really encouraging, it's kind of a David and Goliath here. I'm up against some very large companies. I'm encouraging these stores to get proactive with the rescues that they're working with in the community and use social media to drive new consumers into retail. Any retailer, one of their biggest needs is getting new consumers. So that's what I'm kind of offering them. They promote local shelters too. So if you're shopping at their store and you think, God, I really like a dog, you see they've been promoting these shelters every quarter and brings brand awareness to them as well. So it helps them out. How I work at shelters. The shelter has the ability to sell the products at their stores or in their retail locations, which some of them have. I give back thousands of treats through the relationships. And just to give you some idea, this 198,000 people on Facebook between the 3 major shelters in town here, and that was about 3 months ago, so it's probably well over 200,000. My customers and competition. My customers are shelters, independent pet specialty retailers, boarding facilities, groomers, veterinarians, etc. My biggest competitors, 4 companies do in excess of 75 to 80% of the volume in this space, and they are Colgate-Palmolive, Mars Pet Care, Smuckers, and Nestle Purina. So there's over 300 pet food manufacturers in the United States. It drops off significantly from there. Many of these are owned by venture capitalists that own mattress companies, restaurants, etc. How I set my ingredients and products apart: grain-free, protein first, no added salt, sugar, oven baked. Protein is not always in treats. I put it the first ingredient, which is the most expensive way to produce it, and therefore I don't need to add a lot of salt and sugar. So here's some of the ingredients. It's all natural. And let's see, something coming here. Anyway, I started delivering product on July 31st, and already I'm up to, if it comes up here, about 121,000 treats that will go out to shelter dogs. So that's it.
Fantastic presentation.
Thank you.
And great work with the design. If the whiskey design people are anywhere close, that's fantastic look for this. So, as someone who owns a couple of dogs and had hunting dogs growing up, can you talk to me just a little bit? I totally understand the model. It's fantastic. Talk to me a little bit about the revenue side and actually how you get into these stores and what that looks like from an acquisition point of view.
Sure. Right now, I am, Whiskey Design, they took my highest expectations and 10 times past that. So their slogan is, if a fight breaks out in a bar, it's one of our brands that most likely threw the first punch, and I think I was sold then. Anyway, so I am sold through distribution. I have a distributor in Minneapolis. They cover 14 states through the center band of the United States, so down to Texas. And so I'm available in 14 states right now. So I currently am the feet on the streets, kind of. I've sold it into a lot of the contacts I had before, but then they have an outside sales force that sells into stores as well. So does that answer your question?
So tell me a little bit about how you are marketing. Are you spending money on media buying, trying to start getting out there? Because it's something that you have an amazing mission, you have a great product. It sounds like something I think all of us who probably love dogs, which is probably most of the folks in this room, if not, don't know who you are really excited about, which is great. And so I'm imagining if people could hear about this message that it would take off. But with that, it's obviously a fair amount of investment from a media buying perspective. So tell me a little bit about how you're marketing to get out there and get the word.
Sure. That hasn't really, that's probably not in the works for a little bit. So I'm really trying to, I didn't make a lot of, it was a startup about 2 years ago, really, when we started with this. And so it feels like a startup, but to answer your question, I probably won't do any media buying for a little bit here. I'm trying to grow it organically. And really once I start giving back and I see it taking on a life of its own with these stores and tagging and sharing and, when they're interacting with the facilities. So, but I certainly would like to down the road.
What's kind of the next step in your vision in terms of who you want to hire next for the company?
Who I want to hire next? Great question. I have a sales background, and so I would like to hire someone operationally that could be behind the scenes. I find that when I'm at home, doing all the critical things to make everything go forward, then I am not getting new accounts, really. So if I'm out talking to people, I'm getting new placement and people excited about the product.
How did you source and find the manufacturing relationship to make this possible?
Great question. I had the first company I worked for in the industry sprung off a ton of people in the industry, and one of them went to go sell ingredients, and I asked him for 3 recommendations, and he recommended the same production facility 3 times. So I went and met with them. I did my due diligence. They're produced in Wisconsin. I did my due diligence. They're certified organic. They human grade foods, small, not too small, big, but not too big. And they care about the ingredients, and I wanted the ingredients to be bulletproof and kind of align myself with someone that uses great ingredients. So
last question for me. A lot of kind of one for one, the Tom's model, if you will, for this. A lot of this is about storytelling and things like that. Have you given any consideration to, whether it's a mobile app or some kind of media channel that actually, you talk about, fill this and get 10 dogs in shelters. Have you given the opportunity for that to maybe take a viral sense with regard to maybe geolocating where those shelters are, getting some photos or things like that, kind of to bring that ASPCA kind of situation back to the consumer?
Sure, in the form of an app?
Yeah, like something that would showcase or be able to give the shelters or something a way to photograph, put through a specific channel for you, actually on where those treats were delivered, the dogs and.
Sure. Yeah, that's a great idea. I hadn't thought about that, but it's a great idea.
I've only got one more. So can you give me a sense of what this market looks like in terms of size? You've got a lot of major players in here, and I'm just trying to get a sense of what that looks like, just the raw number.
I'm sorry.
Market size, total revenue potential.
Oh boy, I'm not sure how to answer that. I guess. Sorry. Can you be more specific, or?
Like, any idea what the pet food industry market is as a generality, and like what percentage of that you could hypothetically think to get?
Food and treats is about $16 billion a year. Average consumer spends about $320 a year on food. So,
do you see any like specific segment of that market that's yours, like more, just more societally focused, more?
Yeah, actually,
give back, like.
Yeah, great question. Grain-free treats have been up over 45% for 3 years in a row, and it's the grain-free food market in the pet food industry is literally growing 10 times faster than the regular segment with grain. So it's a real, and it's kind of parallel to people's diets. They're looking for low gluten, low grains, and more protein.
Talk to us about cost.
Pardon me?
Cost.
Cost, yes. Each one of these bags retail for anywhere from $8.99 to $9.99 for a 12-ounce to 1-pound bag.
Wow. Raise prices. That's my first thing. We're going to open it up to the crowd now. One question here.
So real quick, I go to a lot of places with my dog as well. So like, I go to Firestone up on Warnell, and they let me bring my dog in, and they buy treats they give my dog treats when she shows up. The hardware store does that too whenever I show up with Ruby, and she loves it. So are you doing anything to like promote yourself by going and just giving those type of treat bags, or maybe selling them those treat bags at a discount so that they can give their clients and promote your product while they're there and just have it on the desk?
Great question. I do a lot of events or consumer events where I'll hand out samples. However, really I'm in the process of making a sample bag that retailers can use. And a lot of retailers are getting proactive, and they're going to their bank and their local retailers that support them in their own communities and doing just what you said. So. Okay, and then I just bought a bag of chicken strips from Costco the other day, and if I would have known about your product, I would have bought it. Where can I get it? Go to givepet.com, and I have a locator site. You can pull up your zip code, and it'll tell you where to shop here in town. I'm working pretty quickly. I'm not selling online. I'm very dedicated to independent pet specialty. I don't want to undercut anybody, so there's an option that we're working on, should be momentarily. If it doesn't come up in your zip code, then you can buy online. Otherwise, it'll push you to these local retailers. Yes. Yeah, there's about 20 local retailers that carry it in town. Anywhere they sell premium, independent retailers, I guess.
Question for you in the back.
So I'm not a pet owner, but I was on a flight recently for 2.5 hours, and the gentleman next to me spoke the entire 2.5 hours about his 2 Pomeranians and how you should feed them organic. And
look away.
Oh, it was brutal, but.
Do not make eye contact.
Yeah. It didn't work. I tried it. Have you ever considered like taking on an ambassador approach where you get people to talk about your product to when they go in to buy? Because he was telling me about this store in Overland Park, and because he was from Overland Park, and where he can only buy this one treat that's organic. And I don't know. I just think there's so many people who love their animals so much that if you took on this ambassador approach, that maybe they could really speak for you, and it's basically free PR. And what I've seen companies do is give shout outs to their ambassadors on their websites, or do something to kind of thank them for being an ambassador. But I really think that that's a great approach to this pet market, something to consider.
Yeah, you're right. And funny you say that. I was at the Mix, they had up on the board here, one of my favorite places in town, and I gave one of the waitresses a bag, and she said, "Hey, I'm not famous, but I have 800 followers on Instagram." And I'm like, you know. So like that's a start. I don't care. My son has 70. That's good, you know. So no, to your point, on a local level, absolutely. I give out a lot of product and don't really, you know, then they kind of offer. And then I actually, through 1 Million Cups here about a month and a half ago, one of the panel or audience said, you know, you need to get your product in with a lot of these bloggers, you know, YouTubers and so forth. And so that's kind of my next initiative, is to ship product and try to get ambassadors on a more macro level.
Go ahead and raise your hand, and Anna will come around to you. I have a question in the interim, though.
Nope,
you can
bingo.
Walk the 2
Right
minutes over there. Go ahead.
Thank you.
I'll ask after.
Thank you. That was a great presentation, by the way. One
Thank
of
you.
the best pitches I've seen in like a year in Kansas City. So
Oh,
kudos
nice.
to that.
Thanks.
Yeah, it was great. It was wonderful. So the question I would like you to answer is, what is your harvest strategy over how many years? Like a range, 5 to 10 years. You want to see it be acquired. You want to grow it organically till you go public. And the way that I want you to answer that question is, if you had the opportunity to sit across from, let's say, the original investor to Blue Buffalo Dog Food, who's also in really, really tight with Colgate-Palmolive. He has the potential to give you capital or partner with you, or both. What would you say to him? How would you see that conversation going?
You know, I want to, that'd be pretty cool. I'd like to stay independently owned as long as I possibly could. And I'd like to get into other aspects, other products that would give back as well. So so to answer your question, I would like to get to grow in a manner that I could give back more. And if it was in a manner that I needed to get money, then I would do that. So to give back.
Are you a B Corp?
I'm an LLC.
You're an LLC. Have you thought about that at all?
Not yet, but I haven't filed my first year taxes, so.
Okay, cool.
I know I have the option to kind of fluctuate a little bit.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it was a great presentation. We should
Thank
talk
you.
after.
Thanks.
So in the interest of, and Anna, there's a question up to the left. In the interest of being able to give back over the long term, how did you decide on your price?
You know, I wanted to be, I went into Whole Foods not that long ago to get a dark chocolate candy bar, and one gave back to animals in Africa, and the other one was the same price. So what did I pick? You know, the one that gives back. I wanted to kind of have that same alignment here. I wanted to say, hey, this one gives back. It's the same price. Arguably, 99% of the time, it's more healthy than what's next to it for the same price. So, and I've worked for a lot of companies that were very big, wasted a lot of money. My whole mindset was, I'm going to do this lean and mean. I'm not going to waste a lot of money buying last-minute airfare and have meetings about meetings, and you know. So, I've wasted a lot of money in the last 16 years. Not now, but but anyway, to answer your question, you know, I wanted to be in that same price point as, you know, in that where consumers are not going to turn away because of the price.
Sure, definitely understandable. So that is kind of the 8 to 10 or 8 to 12 is kind of the range.
Yeah,
of the
you'll
standard.
See it from $8.99 up to probably $11.99, and in the bulk will sell for probably $8.99 a pound, all the way up to 75 cents an ounce. So a lot of people sell it by the ounce.
I love where it's coming from, like the heartfelt kind of side of it, but I really would consider raising prices. Kind of what Drew was talking about before with the Tom's model. I'm willing to spend $44, well, before they were bought by Bain, I'm willing to spend $44 for a pair of just it's canvas, you know, it's nothing, but I'm willing to spend an ungodly amount of money on it because it's Tom's and it's doing this thing, right? And you could charge another $5, another something, and I really think people would still be willing to buy it if you tell the story correctly. So the margin could be there, and it's just the story behind it. You really could sell it for a higher price, and that'll make a big difference in the long term. So that's my 2 cents, but Anna.
Thank you.
Zach, we've got another question for you right here.
Hi, my question was about veterinarians. It seems I recently adopted a dog, and you go to the veterinarian, it seems all you have is Hills, has their whole display there. Is that another marketing opportunity I know Hills gets these veterinarians while they're in college and kind of wins them over. I didn't know, and they also pay them a percentage of what they sell. I didn't know if that was another opportunity.
It would be a tremendous opportunity. A veterinarian, when you go in there, they're not quite in that sales mode. They're more apt to try to diagnose and solve your problem. I mean, it's a great recommendation, but they're not really actively pushing products, you know. And really, to your point, I think most of them that I go into are completely underselling their abilities and their space to do that. So, but no, that's a great recommendation.
Have you thought about expanding into just like everyday food? Because I mean, a dog may get maybe a treat or two a day, but you know, an owner is going to give a dog consistently a bowl or two of food a day.
Absolutely. I would really, you know, really when I started, I thought that would probably be my first goal. It's from a manufacturing standpoint, it's much easier to get your foot in the door with a treat. They'll try any treat once. The food is a much bigger commitment to them. So I thought I'd probably try to get in with a treat, and food is certainly one thing I would love to do. So a lot of most of these shelters are going on complete donations, and they knowingly feed things that they know they probably wouldn't if they had the luxury of getting something better. So, but they're really, it's based on necessity.
Great. Another question for you in the far back.
On your treats, are they a bone type item, or are they a granular type thing? You pill out a handful, or what are they? And how do you judge your 10 dogs that you're going to feed at the shelter? Is that 10 bags, or is that 10 handfuls, or 10 little bones, or what is it the product looks like?
Yeah, they're heart-shaped, little heart-shaped biscuits. So there's about 81 treats in a 12-ounce bag and 107 in a pound bag. And they're kind of cool. I have two 50-pound dogs. I'll grab a handful at night and give them several apiece. They're baked. To your point, kind of, and I wanted to bring this up, how I give back is I basically, if you're a retailer in Plano, Texas, I give you back a bulk box, 19-pound box of almost 2,100 treats to give to a local facility. And that interaction is completely between the retailer and the rescue group. So, and I give back enough treats for 10 dogs for every bag you buy. No, it accumulates. That's my, so if you, let's see, I add these 10 treats up into these bulk boxes. So then I deliver a bulk box. 2,100 treats would represent 210 bags sold. So it kind of accumulated over a quarter or whatever it takes to get there.
Got another comment for you in the back here.
Yeah, this is more of a comment than a question. I would make maybe a suggestion. I would, if I were you, I would get a friend that's got a decent cell phone camera, and I would shoot a YouTube video and tell your story and put it up on YouTube.
That's awesome.
I would do that like before the week's out.
Okay, this is funny. I have a friend of the family, has a child in fifth grade, and there's one YouTube video out there right now. So get it on there. Breakfast all day went up against a French fry with their dog, and I won. So we pulled out the French fries, getting very nervous. And so
all right,
I probably would have eaten the fry.
Final question: what can we as a community do for you?
Research what you're feeding your dog. 80% of consumers go into mass locations, and if you're going into those locations, you're probably not getting what you really should be feeding. You can feed much better foods at the same price. They go a lot longer. Look at the retailers that I'm in, and any food in these retailers would be awesome. And of course, I'd love you to try the treats and give back to local shelters. So,
thank you very much. Let's hear it. All right, everybody. Thanks for coming today. Don't forget, download the new 1 Million Cups app. You can actually give feedback to both presenters directly on the app. It's super easy and awesome and very beneficial for them. Have a great Wednesday. Don't forget to check out all the Tech Week stuff this week, guys. Thanks for coming. See you next week. We've got the presenters My World Wall and Power Up and Power Down. Have a good one.